I almost feel like I should have intro music or something. You know, kind of like most radio shows have. I don't know. Don't even know whether there's anybody in here right now. It appears though there is. I didn't change my title on this. I need to change my title. There we go. So that's a 64 roll. Where's the other 55? Here it is. 1955S. Very interesting date. I love going through these. Got my 50 names ready. Levels of Madness. Wild Bill. Ron Fry. How's everybody doing? Hopefully everyone got the break that they needed. I gotta mark this one here for the wrapper so somebody can get the wrapper from me. There it is, all marked up, ready to go. And this wrapper is not named by a specific, well, it is actually Security First National Bank of Los Angeles. Security First National Bank of Los Angeles. So, let me go ahead and get these 50 spots. This is roll reveal number 50. It's 1955S bank wrap roll. It is hour 3 for the day and is our final show for the day. And here we go. You were 30 minutes in on the replay of the previous show? How about that? Are you having fun? We got 11 viewers out there right now. Welcome to everybody who's not chatting with us, who's just watching. Watching is fine. You don't have to say anything. But I want you to know that I appreciate you showing up anyway. Let's see here as I pick this roll apart. Got a nice tail's end on one end and a slightly spotty, slightly toned end on the other end. So hopefully with the two ends together we'll come up with a wonderful roll. Andrew O'Neill. I'm not sure if you're in this one either. I don't remember. Tell you the truth. There's so many people. Oops. Okay, I saw that the order that those came out, so I'm going to stick them right back in the same order that they were already in. Right there. Like that. Okay, now we have repaired a row of 50 coins. And these look nice. These look pretty nice, folks. I'm thinking pretty good. Okay. So let me go ahead. Oh, shoot. I do have to get my flips. Man, you guys wouldn't believe the number of flips I can go through. Lots and lots and lots of them. What you guys are looking at right now, if you'll remember, the first roll of the day was to be a 1964 original bank wrapped roll. It turned out to be a circulated roll, so I picked a different roll that would be an original uncirculated roll. And then before I tossed the circulated roll into the copper bin, I went through them real quick. And I found a double die reverse. And you see it there on the bottom of the C of cent, bottom of the E. And you can see it on the initials there, on top of the A. But this is, it's not really exciting, but it is a double die reverse. Brand of flips I use, Guardhouse. They're Guardhouse archival safe flips. Hello, Stephen Dallas. My fine Pacific feathered friend. All right. So, we got ourselves a roll ready to go. Mr. Dowdle will get the first coin in the roll. Let's take a look and see what's there. I haven't looked at any of this, so I have no idea whether or not there are any double dies, repunchment marks, or anything else in here. I haven't looked at the ends of the roll. except to check it for condition to make sure that we had a decent roll to go through, which is something I probably should have done a little bit better with the 64 roll earlier today. And we'll take a quick look at the obverse and reverse of this coin, and it doesn't appear that we've got anything to talk about on this one. I'll flip it back over to the obverse, and I'll look real quickly for markers to see if we've got something that we can pull out as a discernible marker for this die. Well, I'm seeing some die scratches running through the date area. A couple of die scratches coming straight out of his mouth. I guess we could use those. So we got a few rays of light coming down from the bow tie to the first 2 digits of the date. And then we have die scratch coming straight out of the mouth. And that's important because now we know that that die has nothing of significance, but we also know that that die has existed in this roll, and when we find another example, it will help us determine for sure that we had an original bank wrapped roll, because original rolls aren't going to have any more than between 4 and 7, maybe 8 different die pairs. Hello, Mr. Wolf. Clay 37 will get coin number 2 in the roll. Let's take a look at coin number 2 and see what we get. Always excited to open 1955S because I've always wanted a roll hunt RPM number 1. I've never roll hunted an RPM number 1 out of a 55S roll. All the ones I've ever found were either in dealer stock or they were circulated and in wheat bags. I found maybe 1 or 2 in a tubed roll here and there, but not bank wrapped rolls. A nice big die gouge over next to the left wheat. And one up in the top up there. Looks like we don't have a whole lot on this. Let's take a look for a marker or 2 on this and see if we can find something. Well, we've got a heavy die scratch going straight underneath the S mint mark itself. So that will definitely help us define that die as a normal die. So there's 2 different dies so far for the roll. That's a helpful sign. Oh, I put Clay's name in there. All right. Let's take a look at the next coin in the roll for Marshall. New Marshall in town. Let's see what we've got. Well, it looks like we've got the exact same die we just ended up with because we have the same die scratch underneath the S. So that for sure is going to be a normal die. And the reverse should be normal as well. However, even on a normal coin, you can get striking errors. So let's take a look and see if we ended up with anything. There's that die gouge again. Should have a die gouge. Well, there's a different die gouge I haven't really paid attention to yet. But there's another die gouge up by the M of unum right there. Flip it around this way, make it easier to see. There we go. Big old die gouge next to the M. And we have nothing else of note on this side, so we will move on. Yep, it's the Frying Pan S. There we go. It's a good name for it. It's got a handle. Or the Tightrope S. All right, Jeff Dunn gets the next coin in the roll. Let's see what Jeff Dunn ends up with. Well, it's not a Frying Pan S, but it is the other one, because we've got those die scratches running down through the 1-9, actually through the whole date. You've got die scratches coming from the bow tie running southeast into the entire date. All 4 digits have die scratches running through them. And let's see, do we have anything else that we need to pay special attention to. We do have the die scratches coming straight out of the mouth, just like on the last coin from this die. So we have the first dice. Here's a big die gouge above the W. We're running through the top left part of the W. So we got a few die scratches on here. We've got a few die gouges. We've got some things that can actually help us identify this die. And so far, all signs are pointing positive toward this being an original Bankrupt roll, because we're running into the same dies over and over again. No, Sir Paul Hampton. We are 4 coins in right now. Total of 4 coins in. I really need to do something about that glare. Get that glare off of this so you guys can tell where we are. That's coin number 4. We've run into 4 coins and 2 different die pairs so far, and the 2 different die pairs are nothing so far. Mr. Dowdle had coin number 1 in the roll, and here is coin number 5. And coin number 5 shows to be, I've got a nice marker. I do believe that's a heavy die gouge down at the vest below the S. But there's nothing on the mint mark on this one. But it is a new die. So we have 3 different dies now on this roll. All of them so far turning out to be normal with no doubling and no RPMs. Looking around to see what we can find, and we're not getting much out of this yet. But we're only 5 coins in, so we've got time. 1955 S Lincoln cents were very widely hoarded because it was a lower mintage coin. Everybody had this idea that because the mint closed in March, the 55S was going to turn out to be a well, the mint didn't actually close. They just quit it, and they quit minting coins for circulation. For the time being, anyway. This was Benjamin Marler. And that all sort of came on the heels of them determining that the San Francisco mint was not as... there's die 2 for the roll. The San Francisco mint was not going to be as efficient as Philadelphia and Denver, so they just had them stop minting regular coins. The last roll had a variety in the very first coin out of the roll. The very first coin was an RPM. This one so far is not that lucky. Yep, 44.61 million coins minted. People thought that that was going to be a big deal. So, like with the 31S, a lot of people hoarded these. A whole bunch of them saved. This is yet a different die. This one's not like any of the others that we've seen so far. This one we're going to go with 2 die scratches pointing straight into the S. We'll probably find something else. But what's most important to remember on this, there's some die scratches above the TY. What's most important to remember in this particular case is that there is no doubling on this particular die. Let's look at the reverse die. 1955S is not known for double die reverses, so very low chance of finding anything back here. Much possible. So we do it. Everything's discovered at one point or another. So because it was a low mintage year and everyone knew it was going to be a low mintage year, they saved these things by the bucket. I mean, bags and rolls and all kinds of things were saved. And that's why this is such a low mintage coin. However, most of them are in better condition. These things are actually hard to find in lower than extremely fine condition. They just almost don't exist. Okay, this is going to be yet another different die. We have a very heavy die scratch coming out of the through the one just to the left of the S. Our straight out die scratch comes from the top lip and not from the mouth. And we have a few other die scratches here and there, but none of them are going to prove worthy of really paying them much attention to. It's going to be hard to remember, but this die scratch will be easy to remember. It's a real heavy one. Comes straight down out of the throat through the one to the left of the S. So far we got 5 different die pairs for this roll. 5 different die pairs for this roll. All of them happen to be normal so far. So we're looking for up to 2 or 3 more die pairs, hoping that we run into an RPM or a double die. But if we don't, we still have some nice uncirculated coins here, some nice BU coins. They are turning out to have nice luster. Very limited spotting, very limited. Overall, pretty nice coins. All right, Paul Hampton. Well, that's coin number 8. Coin number 9 will go to Doug Reese. Mr. Reese, let's see what you've got. That is the tightrope S, or the frying pan S. We have a handle. So it is not going to be an RPM or a double die. Because as I was explaining to someone new a little bit earlier, I think it's important to understand this, and it's important to have it explained in case you may have never heard it before. When we talk about dies and the markers on dies, this particular marker is one that we've seen before. When we talk about markers on dies, we're talking about things that have been irreparably done to the die so that the die will always have that same mark. That right there. Little die scratches and stuff like that can be polished away, so they're more temporary. But large gouges like this and die cracks and chips and things that are permanent markers on a die are the ones you really want to try looking for. And here's why. Markers are not something that make up what the die is. Markers only help you identify the die. So if you have a repunch mint mark, and say you want to look up that repunch mint mark and find out what repunch mint mark you have, one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to look at the doubling on the mint mark. Then you're going to look at the position of where the mint mark is in relation to the date. Very, very important. That has to absolutely match, or you've got something different. There's your 2 die scratches running into the S. We've seen this die before. So when you're looking up your markers, you should only bother looking for markers after you have determined that you have a plausible chance of having the same mint mark in the exact same position, or the same doubling in the same direction in the same area. You have to be relatively convinced that you have that double die or that repunch mint mark before you even move on. When you move on, you're looking for the markers that make up what the attributor saw on that particular die, and you're trying to match your coin to that die by trying to match markers. That's where I talk about the markers helping you identify which die you have, not that you have one. The fact that you have a double die or a repunch mint mark should already be obvious to you. This is an RPM. I do believe. Can I get closer to it so we can see it up close? It's a little bright, but I do believe I see a split in the serif, in the upper serif. Turn the light down low. So we have glare. Really shiny coin, got a lot of glare. Thing looks like hot embers. It's so cool to look at. Something crawling in my hair. Oh, come on. I'm sure I saw it. Oh, I know I saw it. That's wild. I guess there isn't anything there. Well, wait a minute. I'm seeing what looks like a split in the lower serif. And a split in the inside upper serif. I don't know. We'll get a marker off of this, and if I see a coin that was punched a little more clearly, we might see better doubling in the mint mark area. So, let me hold this one off to the side for now. Get a marker off of it. What kind of marker can we get off of this one? Oh, we've got a number of strong little scratches coming straight out of the upper lip there. Let's see what else we have. Die scratch next to the W of we. Oh, there we go. A heavy die gouge coming down into the L of Liberty. Heavy die gouge to the L of Liberty. And heavy die scratch down out of the upper lip. Oh, I'm sorry, Penny Parent. Should have had my uniform on from the beginning, right? So I probably need to give you a 341 now. We'll set this off to the side. You have no idea what a 341 is. In fact, you'd almost have to be an Air Force veteran to know what a 341 is. 341 was a demerit slip. You would fold 341s up and stick them in your front pocket. So when your training instructor saw you do something wrong, they could just come over and tear a free 341 straight out of your pocket. You get enough 341s and you end up getting recycled, which means held back for another week in training because they think you need more training. Basically, they want to yell at you longer, break you down more because, well, you seem to be rebellious. There we go. Long die scratches going all the way through the date. We've seen this one before. And so 341s were a thing. Basically, it was mostly just in basic training during your time at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. And if, for instance, your cover wasn't going on your head as you were crossing the threshold to go outside, your cover is your hat. If it wasn't going on your head as you were crossing the threshold to go outside, you were out of uniform. If it was still touching your hair when you crossed the threshold to go inside, your hair or your bald head, depending on how long you've been in, you were out of uniform. Because the Air Force Regulation 35-10 stated that you were to have a cover on your head when you were outdoors and have no cover on your head when you're indoors. Except in certain jobs and certain situations. And, well, going into the chow hall was not one of those situations. So if a training instructor or a TI saw you without your cover on, walking a step outdoors, he would probably tell you to try that again and give you a 341. Then as soon as you walk indoors without your cover on, he'd demand another 341. And when you come back outside and didn't have your cover on again because you were handing him a 341 and he was standing outside, of course he would dock you for another 341 because you were standing outside without your hat on. One of the little games that training instructors in Air Force basic training love to play. And we got a little bit of grease on that die. But we've seen it before and there's nothing there, so Sissy gets a normal coin. The Air Force was really fun. Steve Elliott. Steve Elliott gets coin number 14. Let's take a look at coin number 14 and see what's on it. For Steve Elliott. All the little tiny fibers you see around are from wrapping paper. They're fibers from the paper that wrapped this roll. They are not going to hurt the coin. However, that green stuff will. That spot will hurt the coin. Let's take a look at the reverse and see what we get on the reverse. That's right. You went into IOU status on the 341s. At the end of the week, your training instructor would count the 341s and he'd embarrass you in front of everyone. Tell me how many 341s he had taken from Airman whatever his name would be. Cutting across the grass. I tell you what, the main post office of Green Acres, Florida, has an area where there's a sidewalk right across the front of the parking lot, and then there's a sidewalk that goes, it angles toward the building right next to where my P.O. box was. And there's this patch of weeds that run across that. And there's a sign, please do not step on grass. Well, it really wasn't grass. It was all just junk. It was weeds. And I don't think anybody ever paid attention to that except me. But I would not walk in that because there was a sign saying not to. And that's Air Force standard for you. That's just the way you learn. You learn to follow the rules and not question it. You just do it. That's how they can get you into situations where you put your life in peril and don't even think about it because you're thinking about doing the job. You're not thinking about your own preservation. So far, we've not found any varieties in this roll, but we're having fun. I am anyway. Stroke your chit. There you go. Sissy Atwell gets the next coin in the roll. We're at 15 coins. This is 16. This one's got that die gouge below the S, so we've seen this die before. Yeah, I'm glad the basic training was as hard as it was to the people who it was hard on. Because those are the people that frankly couldn't handle it and didn't need to be where we ended up. You're in a situation of war. You don't question people's orders. You don't question what goes on, especially people who have some experience there. You just don't question it. You just do it. Anybody who goes into the military and stays there long enough to end up being deployed to war who has an attitude, they don't need to be there. Don't want them there with me. You have an attitude, stay home. Steve Elliott. I had an original 341 for a long time. I also had I had my original BMTS training book. I don't know how long I kept that thing. Then I decided one time that it was just unnecessary because I move around the U.S. a lot. I decided, you know what, probably not worth it. This has got the die scratch coming out of the mouth. There's also a nice heavy die scratch on the Y. Why? Because we like you. M-O-U-S-E. Okay, got nothing on this one. I think, folks, we might end up with just a dead roll here. But we're ending up with a dead roll that's in pretty good shape. We got some nice bright coins out of it. All of them are nice and red. All right, and the very last thing that you want when you're in a situation of war is someone who questions everybody's moves. Because I tell you what, you second think your move, that could be the difference between life and death for you or other people. Definitely not a position you want to put people in. You don't want the responsibility of having thought twice and had someone else's father killed or mother. We've seen this die before. Eyelid. No. I'm thinking no, but I'll take a better look. That's a die scratch right there. Runs the wrong direction for an eyelid. Now that could possibly be an eyelid, but man, it's rough. Yeah, it looks rough. Hard to tell anything. I'm going to keep it at this angle right here because that seems to be the best angle that shows up, and zoom it out and see what I can still see. Nothing. Not enough there to make a shot. Okay, I'll loop it. Nice clean red coin. No doubling. I like the surface on the coin. It's really nice. It looks a lot better than it did underneath that scope. Die scratch on the back of the neck. A die scratch on the back of the neck. Not really. I mean, there's little die scratches in the field behind the neck, but that's nothing big. Mr. Dowdle, coin number 19. What do we have on coin number 19? We're going to have to make it brighter so that we can see. That's focus. This is light. Oh, we have a tight wire S, don't we? The frying pan S. But we have no doubling on this particular coin because we know this die, and this die doesn't have any doubling. Look on to the next, on the reverse. See what we see on the reverse. I have a somewhat weakly hubbed, or weakly struck coin. We're seeing marks in all the same places that we expect to see marks in because we know this reverse die. And it has nothing on it. Thus, Mr. Dowdle ends up with a nice, clean Gem BU 1955S Lincoln Cent that has no doubling. Coin number 20. My loop is a 10x. I only use a 10x triplet Belomo. It's come on. There we go. Belomo triplet 10x. It's a good small loop with a wide field, and it doesn't have a lot of aberration. The optical quality is really good, and they're inexpensive. Inexpensive being that you can get one of these for around $30. That may not be inexpensive if you're used to buying $10 loops, but $10 loops are junk. Plain and simple. 20x Belomo's nice, but the problem with 20x is it's just a little more than I really want to have. You know, it's just a little overkill for me. Some people, like you, may love them, but I think 20x is overkill. It's because I also prefer to be able to grade coins and look at, you know, marks on errors and things like that, and the little things that you don't really need a real heavy loop. So I prefer the 10x. Clay 37. Basically, if you have a 10x loop and you can see it, and you can pretty clearly see it, then you got something that's probably worthwhile. If you're looking at it with a 20x loop just to be able to see it, you probably don't have anything that's going to have a market. And marketability is basically what all the listing systems and everything are all about for double dies and repunch mint marks. If it's not something that's really going to be marketable, what's the point in listing it? Only to show that it exists, but it doesn't have any value? Jinx, Steve, you owe me a beer. I just said that. Yeah, levels, the thing about that is as the glass gets larger, to keep the distortion and aberration from happening in the glass, you have to have higher and higher quality glass lenses. And the higher the quality, the far more expensive it becomes. So the larger the aperture, the larger the size, exponentially larger the cost. Paul Hampton is the next coin in the roll. And what do we have? We've got a gouge under the S. Gouge under the S equals die we've already seen. I will take another cursory look through this roll and make sure that we have not missed anything during this show. But so far what it's appearing to me is that we've got 5 or 6 different dies here. And they are repetitive through the roll, which shows us that we have an original bank wrapped roll. However, this particular day, they were on their P's and Q's and didn't strike any RPMs or double dies. I didn't steal your comment. You stole mine. You owe me a beer. Not the other way around, mister. They are nice coins. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the coins in this roll. They're very bright, really nice, uncirculated coins. Just we're not really... This one's not so nice. Most of them are really nice, very beautiful, bright coins. This one is not pretty. This one's got some hunk of gunk on it. It is a tightwire S, or the frying pan S. There's the Pinocchio nose. So we've seen this die before. Yeah, for the most part, these are nice album coins. And you never know. When we open one of these rolls, we're taking a little bit of a risk. We're taking a risk on finding nothing and ending up with a couple of dollars worth of coin. Or we're risking the ability of finding RPMs. In this case, RPMs worth up to about $40, $50 a piece. That we know of. Sissy Atwell. Now, as I was going through starting to pack up a lot of the reveal stuff from the last couple of weeks and getting it shipped out to the owners of the coins, I was looking through some of it, and I realized that we do find a pretty decent share of double dies and repunch mint marks in the rolls that we're going through. I'm not dissatisfied. Given what the averages are, we're actually doing pretty well. So even though we're not finding anything in every roll, we're still finding something in just about every roll. I mean, there's more rolls that do than don't. That's for sure. Hunk of gunk. It's like Elvis's hunk of burning love. A hunk of burning love. Mr. Marshall, coin number 25. I promise I'll stop now. No more of that behavior, mister. All right, got a tight wire S or a frying pan. It looks like a pipe. That's what it looks like. The S is a little bowl of the pipe, and then the stem goes into his vest. 6 boxes and nothing? Wow. I tend to take my lumps in smaller pieces. So if I get into a box, it doesn't seem to have anything in it, I just slide the rest of it out of the way and go to a different box. So I'm going to dance around all these different boxes until I find one that's got something in it. Six boxes of coins, Mr. Fletcher. 6 boxes of coins. I think he's asking if it was Cirque stuff, if it was customer wrapped, if it was bank wrapped, if it was all one day, 1 year, if it was all original bank wrap stuff, Fed wrapped. All from Bank of America. Was it modern like you went to the bank and picked up change and it was all different circulated years and mints, or was it all the same thing? I see there's a whole lot of the hunters out there, the people. This one's got the spike below the us. There's a lot of the hunters out there who they get all depressed and sad when they get a box that's all the same date and mint. Like, why? You guys don't realize this is where the double dies come from. This is like being able to examine the seed before it grows. It's like, why would you be less than happy when you get an entire box that only contains like 8 or 10 different dies in it at most? You can go through 2 rolls from that box and know whether you've got anything good, and take the rest of the box back to the bank if you don't. These people don't even want to crack a roll open. They're like too lazy. Circulated bank wrap stuff. Another one from Mr. Marshall. It looks like, we're 27. We're at coin number 27 right now, and I've still not found anything. So, unless some of the stuff that we've already been looking at turns out to be something more than what I think, then we've basically been through everything that we're probably going to see in this roll. Do you see what I see? No, because what I see is made up little stories in my head. That's right. I got the voices talking to me again. This time I promise I'm not answering back. $64D. $64D's got RPMs, got nice RPMs. The first thing that you want to do when you pick up a single date and mint mark roll, like this 1955S roll, is you want to go on to Coppercoins.com. You want to go on to VarietyVista.com, and you want to look at all of the photographs those websites have for die varieties. What's the other one? Wexler's Double Die website. What is it called? Double Die. Is it doubledie.com? And you want to make sure that you have a good idea of what's already been listed. There's Coppercoins, VarietyVista.com, and gosh, I can't ever remember. Is it doubledie.com? I think that's what John's website is. And yeah, doubledie.com. And you'll want to go to those websites. You want to search out your date and mint mark, whichever one that is. And you want to study, although briefly, just study what dies are listed and what you should be looking for there. Don't limit your search to what's been listed. What you want to look at in what's listed is you want to get a good idea so that you don't miss anything that you could be finding. But at the same time, don't limit yourself to what you're looking for. Look for anything that's out of the ordinary. Because there could be any chance that you could find out of the ordinary stuff. I think the big egg that he's talking about is in the... Oh, look at that. Nice little bit of grease going on there. That's a patch of grease on the die that struck over to the coin. Made it look dark at this angle. Basically made the U disappear as well. I think the big egg Paul Hampton's talking about is the egg-shaped dots in E pluribus unum on the reverse of a lot of the wheat years. Yes, those do exist in a number of different years, but there are also a number of different years for which not one example of that has been found. 5 boxes of 2019D. Wexler has a listed... Oh, look at that. We got the wrapper going to Clay 37. There we go. Clay 37 gets the wrapper. Take it here. And this is the one. It's rather thin paper. It's unusually thin for a coin wrapper. But there we go. You, sir, now own a wrapper. Goose egg? No. The egg-shaped O on shield double dies. I'm not familiar with that. Or egg-shaped 0? Like 0 is in the date? Or O? O is in 1 on 1 cent. Or O of. Mr. Patat gets the next coin in the roll. And what do we have here? We have a lack of focus. The 0. Okay, 0's in the date. So we're talking about the goose egg, the egg-shaped 0 in the date that will give you an indication that you have found a double die. I wish it were easier and simpler for you guys to be able to ship rolls to me, because I like having rolls. I mean, all the same date mint mark. I don't like going through customer wrap stuff. I don't like going through customer wrap rolls at all. I don't like digging through a bunch of dirty coins. I really don't like rolling wheat pennies, because when I do, my fingers get all nasty. I don't know where all that crap's been. I have no idea where that stuff comes from. Could be from anything. Yeah, I know. So wear gloves, right? Can you have all the die markers for a certain DD or RPM, but it's not one? Yes, you can have markers that are very similar, because you have a die scratch in a particular area on your double die doesn't mean you're not ever going to have a very similar die scratch on a different die. So, yes, you can have markers that are extremely similar to and very closely match a double die or a repunch mint mark, but it not be the double die or repunch mint mark. That's very possible. Oh, here we go again. So, let's just say, for instance, if this S walking on the high wire here were a definite marker of a strong double die reverse, we would be thinking automatically, oh, wait a minute, this is probably the double die reverse because we have the high wire walking S. And then we'd flip it over, and we would or would not see our double die reverse based on whether or not this is the exact same die scratch that we were describing as the high wire S. There could be another die scratch that's very, very similar to this one, yet not exactly the same one. And so a marker does not make the doubling. The doubling makes the doubling all by itself. Whether or not it has the marker can help you identify what die you have. Number 8 RPM for what date, Spike Ted? Yes, 2019 P1D05 does have very similar markers to any other 2019 Lincoln cent because, well, there's a few reasons for that. The first reason is that markers may be a little scarce on that die pair, and finding anything might have been a little difficult to do. However, the other indicator is that most of those were listed very early in the life of 2019 Lincoln cents, and it was not yet known whether or not die scratches in particular areas or little marks would be common for that year. So everything that I could find was listed. That's both good and bad, because it's good because it helps when you think you found the doubling, you can see more areas of the coin because the doubling was minor, and you can see more areas of the coin to help you determine what is the shape of the die crack exactly the same. You know, we're talking about exactums here. We're not talking about maybes or close or, you know, it's not hand grenades here. We're talking about thread and a needle. And if it's not exactly the same, you don't have it. End of story. So yeah, with the markers on a lot of the 2019 doubled dies, I was photographing anything I could find that would show up as a marker. The reason was twofold. One, there weren't very many markers on those coins. And two, the markers that I did find, I wasn't sure whether or not those were going to be ones that would repeat from die to die yet, because we hadn't been through a whole bunch of those. Mr. Dowdle gets the next coin here. This is coin number 32 in the roll. Sorry, I'm not announcing every one of them. It just seems like we're hitting the same dies over and over again, so we're just kind of taking a look at the coins to see if there's anything on them for error's sake. We've got 5 or 6 different die pairs in this roll. This one was the 5th one that are repeating themselves, which shows us that we do have an original bank wrapped roll, but at the same time, we have a very limited set of dies that we're dealing with, and none of these happen to have had any die varieties on them. So it is what it is. I'm just reporting the news. I don't make it. Let's take a look at that one coin again. This is coin number 11. It belongs to Mr. Patat. But we'll take a look at it again. Let's see what I see in here. Okay, there's some chance this could be an RPM. I think I see a split in the lower serif. I think I see extra width in the upper curve of the S. Let's see if we have any particular markers that we can use to help us find. Okay, this one has a heavy die gouge above the L. It's also got an angled die scratch above the RT of Liberty. You can see if I get it in the right angle here, you can see it. There it is. Let's see what else we have that could show up as a good marker, if anything. We have a pretty heavy die scratch next to the W of we. Other die scratches in the area that parallel that one. We simply don't have a whole lot to work from here. But I don't remember having seen this die again. So we'll have to keep watching for that. I'll go back through all of these coins and watch for that L again. But yeah, that is important that all of the markers have to match. You can't just have Well, they don't have to match. Let's put it this way. The markers are going to come close to matching. So there could be markers that disappear from one point to the next, which is why I was talking about those other markers being temporary markers. You have permanent markers and you have temporary markers. These die scratches right here are temporary markers. After another 30,000 coins, these die scratches may not exist. But if you find like a really heavy die gouge, or you find a broken die or a die chip, die crack, those things don't ever go away. Those things stay on that die until that die is retired. Sometimes they grow, sometimes they don't, sometimes they change shape. But the one thing, they never shrink. So if you find a mid die state with a large crack and then a late die state with a smaller crack, the dies aren't related. They're not the same die. Impossible to happen. Steve Elliott, coin number 34. I'm going to check that L first on these. Because if we see that die again, we'll know it. It was at this angle. How about that? How about that? First coin we pull out. Boom. Okay, now let's give this one a nice tight look over. It could be that I'm missing something on coins. I'll pick it up when I run back through the roll again. But see, this one's got a little flat spot on it. That flat spot is caused by a hit on the mint mark. So I can't really see much for any sort of splits on this. So this one leaves me with the same question as the last one. Is it or is it not? One of the things that had me asking, though, had me wondering, that's the chin. And come back down here. There we go. Okay, let me bring this in focus, and then I'll blast it with light, and we'll see the upper corner of the mint mark again, because I thought I saw a split in the upper corner on an earlier one. Yeah, and it's just not conclusive. I'm just not really seeing anything for sure. I need to get this under my regular microscope so it's easier to see. But that angled die scratch coming to the bottom of the one, that is usable. Especially when you're talking about one roll or one group of rolls that are original bank wrap rolls. You're likely to get all the same die stage. I don't see anything on the bottom serif. That's the thing, is I thought I had seen, from this angle right here, you can see a little tiny thing that sticks up on the top of the S. On the top right of the S, right at the serif. Makes it look like you have a doubled serif there. I don't really see anything in either one of the two curves, and I don't really see anything on the bottom serif that shows for doubling. So the hairdryer trick worked? I've actually never tried it myself. I know it's there, and I know it will work because other people have told me it does, but I've never actually done it myself. I don't have time. I don't. I spend 12, 14 hours a day working as it is. Sitting around with a hairdryer to a roll of coins is not exactly my idea of efficient work. Well, what I'm seeing, it's just really hard to tell whether it's an RPM. I'll set this one off to the side with the other one, and I don't think I'm going to find anything on it because I would think it would have shown up already. If it is there, it's probably going to be too minor to list, but it doesn't hurt to look again. I mean, it's not going to cost me anything. You really think it's die number 9 for sure? Well, here's Steve Elliott again. Let's look at the next coin. And there's probably others from that die in the pile here of ones that I've already pushed off. This is not one of them. This was die 1 out of the roll. Nothing on this one except a somewhat weakly struck coin. Well, I mean, I can look real quick and I can try to attribute and see that it's is or is not die number 9 and explain why. As soon as I run into another one. This one's got the gouge below the S, so it's a nothing. Except a nice coin. This is a nice, relatively clean looking coin. But see, Paul, one thing that you have to... Ooh, that's icky. One thing that you have to understand is that you cannot use a marker to make a die variety. It doesn't work that way. The die variety might have the marker. The markers are not going to have the die variety. So it doesn't matter if there's a die gouge here or a scratch there. If you don't have the doubling exactly the same as the die, then you got nothing. Mr. Patet. Which die is this? Oh, it's another one, just like the last. It's got that spike below the S. Okay. Well, next one that we find, I'll bring up the markers and everything for die number 9 on my website, and I'll actually take a look at it. Your mint mark positioning has to be exactly the same. The doubling of the mint mark has to be exactly the same. The markers have to be exactly the same. Oh, you heard it before, you'll hear it again and again, because that's exactly how you do this. It's pretty forensic science. It's straightforward and exact. There are no possibilities, there are no maybes, there are no it could be's. It either is or it is not. There's no third way about it. We may end up actually finishing this roll without finding another one. But we do have a dozen coins left, so we'll see. This is coin number 38 right here. Let's see. Paul Hampton gets the next coin. This is another spike below the S. So we have that die again. coin number 39. Let's move on to coin number 40 and see what we get there. Mr. Patat again. And coin number 40. Spike below the date again. Spike below the mint mark anyway. This is, I think, the third or fourth coin in a row from this die. All the little speckles you're seeing on this are little spots of grease and grime that were on the die at the time this coin was struck. They are not actually dirt on the coin. When you look at the coin's going to look nice and bright, shiny copper. It's under this angle of light that makes them look like it's got little black spots on it. They use old dies for OMMs? No, not necessarily. The dies used for OMMs are simply dies that were earmarked to go to one mint, and they didn't need it, canceled the order, or the order changed, or the die got set aside and left out of the order, and then the other mint needed dies, so they mint mark those. And it's one mint mark over another mint mark, because all of the dies at the time that OMMs were created in the Philadelphia die shop. So all of the San Francisco dies, all of the Denver dies were all created in the Philadelphia die shop. So given that, your Denver mint mark punches and your San Francisco mint mark punches were all at the Philadelphia die shop. Same thing goes further back in the silver dollars, your O, your CC, all of those. All of those dies were made in Philadelphia. And so when you have an OMM, in some cases it's as simple as guy grabs the D mint mark, punches it into the die, and sees that it's an S, and he's like, oh crap. He goes to remove the S, doesn't remove it all the way, punches the D in, it looks good enough, he sends it off. So it's not necessary that you use an old die to create an OMM. That's not necessarily correct at all. It could be, but it isn't necessarily correct. And we have another of the first die of the roll. Again. Now look at the reverse for any particular error spots. Anything we see that we need to discuss? Oh, on top of an E, almost completely obliterated by a grease-filled die there. That's what all those little fleck marks everywhere are, and all the dark areas. The little dark areas and fleck marks are all bits of grease and grime that were stuck to the die when the coin was struck. No, Mr. Gross. Individual dies were hand punched with mint marks at that point in time. It's not a master die issue. Master die issues are for doubled dies, not for repunch mint marks. Mint marks were punched into the dies individually until 1990. Oops, forgot to put Sissy's name in her coin. There we go. Put that in there. Put D. Reese down here. Doug is the next guy to get a coin. See what happens. And got the spike below the S again. So we're repeating the same dies over and over again. And nothing highly important going on that one. So we'll get it in its holder. Move on to the next coin and see if there's anything to talk about there. Coin number 44. Coin number 44 goes to Majestic Sounds of Coins. And this one is not a Spike S. This one does appear to be the die that we've been talking about as RPM number 9. So let me bring Coppercoins up on my other screen. And I'll do a die variety search for 1955. San Francisco repunch mint marks. And go to number 9. This is not die number 9. Well, wait a minute. There's a much later dice date. Yeah, the coin that I have here in front of me is an earlier dice date than what's shown on the website. So it could actually still be that die. So another little die scratch protrudes from the 1 that I can see on there. And the 9 has the little stuff coming off of it like this one does. Okay. Well, you can see this little guy right at the bottom right corner of the 1. There is a die scratch or die gouge little thing sticking out of the bottom right corner of the 1 that I can see in the markers for die number 9. Die number 9 also shows a die crack coming off the bottom corner of the B of Liberty, but that's a later dice date than this coin, so they probably won't match. Let's see if this has any of the die scratches on the reverse that show on the die number 9 example, and no. And the reverse, it appears to me, if it's the same die, the reverse has changed. It's not the same reverse. No. If it's the same obverse die, the reverse has been changed. So, let's check the positioning of the mint mark again. Okay, I look at the alignment of the right side of the S to the 5. As you go straight down the 5, you're going to hook just barely to the right of the S. Looks like the same case that you got going on with RPM number 9. And it is closer to the 5 than it is to the 9. So the positioning looks very similar. So it could be. This could be RPM number 9. But I will have to take a much closer look at it under the other scope, but I do believe you could be correct. RPM number 9. So that's coin number 44 for Majestic. I'm going to have to go back through all of these and pluck those out, because I think we've probably got more of them in this roll. Didn't I say before, usually if it's more than 8 die pairs per roll, it's not a legitimate bank wrap roll. That is somewhat generally a rule, but not always. But what I said was between 5 and 8 die pairs generally is what you're going to find in bank wrapped rolls. It helps you determine that you have bank wrapped rolls. If you have 30 different dies in a roll with coins that have different colors on the edges and different textures on the coins themselves, then you probably do not have an original bank wrapped roll. But you can have more than 5 to 8 dies in a roll and still have an original bank wrapped roll. It's just not common. Commonly, you're going to find between Oh, usually 5 and 8 different dies, different die pairs within one bank wrapped roll. Oh, I didn't draw a name for that coin. Duh. There we go. Mr. Dowdle. Mr. Dowdle will take that one. And it's not a variety coin. Now let me pull a name for this one. Clay 37. Clay 37 will take this coin, which is a high wire S. That was going to work out to be a normal coin, but it's in pretty good shape. It's actually in very good shape. Okay, nothing there. That's coin number 46. Number 47. Robert, if it didn't go out today... Never mind, it did go out today. Went out today, Robert. Majestic, coin number 47. I'm keeping my head above water doing this as much as I possibly can. And I see that I still have a number of people's packages to get out, but that will happen tomorrow at my best, earliest convenience. I don't want to be holding on to stuff any longer than I have to. That's for sure. Trying to build up your trading material. You got some of it coming, that's for sure. Don't see anything on this one either. Check that mint mark area again. Okay, this is not the die in question. That's coin number 47 for Majestic. Yeah, your package. I sent out about 15 packages today, and I just looked. I remember packing yours today, and I just looked back, and all the ones I packed today are gone. So I took them to the post office this afternoon before the. It's after the 2 p.m. roll reveal and before the 5 p.m. roll reveal, and amidst I think 2 different phone calls and 2 deals made on more rolls, I somehow managed to get all of the packages I packed today gone. Wait, let's see. Let's check it real carefully. Nope. Okay. This one is a normal roll. Normal coin, I mean. Normal coin in the roll. Okay. That's number 48. Mr. Patet. Coin number 49 and 50. 49 will go to Wild Bill. Oops, look at this where you can read it. 49 will go to Wild Bill, and 50 will go to Paul Hampton. Wait. Okay, Wild Bill gets the first coin that doesn't have a name. Then Paul Hampton and Benjamin Marler will get 49 and 50. We got a coin in here that doesn't have a name attached to it. I've been through this exercise before. I somehow have looked at a coin and did not put a number behind the name. So, gotta find it. There it is right there. Coin number 35. Coin number 35 did not have an owner, and now it does. Coin number 35 will go to Wild Bill. He was the first name I pulled out of the bag when I discovered the issue. Let's see what we have with coin number 35. Okay, this one belongs to the first die of the roll and is not one of our suspect RPMs. That little white spot in the middle of the head was on top of the plastic. It was not part of the coin. All right, so now we've got that properly assigned. Now we got 49 and 50 to Paul Hampton and Benjamin Marler, in that order. Coin number 49 to Paul Hampton. That is a spike below the S, non-RPM, non-double die. And we will be able to sit and chat for a little while this evening because I don't have anything going on specifically after this broadcast. So I will be able to sit for a little while. And let's take a look at coin number 50 and see what we get. Coin number 50. This one was facing out. So the obverse has a little spotting and some toning. No RPM on this one. And the reverse was pointing inward, so it's normal and red and bright. So there we go. That's Benjamin Marler, coin number 50. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep talking with you guys. Hello, Mint State Numismatics. You showed up at the very end of the last reveal. Penny Parent, you have a good night. YPCGS stopped attributing the 2009 FYDDRs. I had 2 FS808 sent in. They're coming back as regulars. And probably that's the only thing I can see. Got the package, but didn't get the $25 1972D roll. There was a 1972D roll missing? Okay, I apologize. That's one of those things. I'll send anything to anybody that they're missing. So just let me know. And so what we have shows up right now to be 3 coins of a possible RPM and the rest of the roll not. But that's only because we weren't necessarily pulling any of the coins earlier. Like coin number 21 here is also one of them. So coin number 21, Clay 37, also has one of those. And I'm going to sit here and go through all of these and pull out the ones that have that little gouge above the L. You guys got to know, got one guy working on all this here. You got one guy doing all of this. There's no departments, there's no corporation, there's no nothing. It's just me. And while I've got Jody and Brady, and I've got Penny Parent, and I've got Amber working with me on the outside, none of them are actually physically here where they can help me deal with the coins themselves. So when it comes to finalizing inventory, when it comes to getting auction lots ready or any of that stuff, I'm pretty much the only one who can do it because I'm the only one who's physically with the coins. Wild Bill, it could actually work to your benefit sometime. It never has. You always get involved in screw-ups. See you around, Robert. I do have a lot to do. But it's okay. It's enjoyable. I don't mind doing it at all. It's just a matter of I hope I'm getting it right. Let's see. Mr. Dowdle got one of these. Coin number 32. Level says, good night, Uds. Okay, I'm back to the beginning of the roll now, looking through the coins, going back up to the point where I was when I discovered that we may have a die variety. I pulled it out. Paul found that it appears that the markers match up for an RPM. I looked, and I agree. The markers do appear to match up. So what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to go into the master set and pull out any examples of that die that I happen to have in the master set and look for additional minor markers that I can use to glue the information on these coins together with the information on the die, and then take photographs for an earlier die state so that we can have the new markers that we're finding listed under that die. And so that's what I am presently doing, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I found a total of 5 of these so far. So 5 is better than the 3 I originally had. See you around, Bulldog. Have a good anniversary, Marine. You and your wife. Yeah, quickly going through these and determining that I'm not seeing that die very much in this roll. If it turns out to be RPM number 9, I don't know how familiar I am with how common that is. It's probably not a very common one because it is very minor and difficult to detect. Not seeing more of them. And I'm back up to a point in the roll where I was definitely looking for them now. I'm up to coin 43 again. It's 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and no. So we have a total of 5 of them. And that's what we've got. It's a point of having 5 of them. You got a 1968 uncirculated set from Philly and San Francisco with 2 Lincolns with S mint mark. Nickel has an S, dime and quarter do not. Should one of the cents not have a mint mark? If you got an original 1968 uncirculated set, they're going to have Denver coins too. Because 1968, Denver at least made Lincoln cents. So there should be D-Mint coins in there as well. You have 2 09s from a previous reveal. Is this 1955 S RPM number 9? Let me check my book. This book tells everything. This is the Wizard's recipe. No 55S number 9 listed in the book. In fact, as it appears, I have not photographed any 55S's to add to the website. No. Well, for some reason, I don't have coins or photographs to work from on this until I get into the master set, which I'm not going to do right now. And I will work to determine whether or not this is RPM number 9. But we have 5 of them. Whatever turns out to be. We got 5 of them. Well, Stonecutter, I believe I sent you 55S RPM number 5. Not number 9. And what I'm seeing here does appear to be RPM number 9 in a state that makes it for some reason more difficult to see. And I did not take these photos, which means I don't have a larger version of them. Which means it's all the same, I would need to replace these photos anyway while I'm doing the research. Good night, Mr. Patat. See you next time. We do have a reveal coming up tomorrow. We've got one at 1 p.m. and then we have another at 5 p.m. 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. tomorrow. Stonecutter, are you sure that's 1955S 1MM009? I mean, I suppose it could be, but I should have taken photographs of one of them if we did indeed run into 55S 1MM number 9. I don't see where I've put any new photos of 1955S RPMs on the website. Sorry, I don't know. Don't know what to tell you. I don't remember it. Been through too much since then. I'll go through this. I'll take care of these the way they need to be taken care of. I'll figure it out. And then we'll get it taken care of. I remember number 5. I just don't remember number 9. And I should have taken a picture of it, but I didn't. Unless a page is missing from my book or I'm skipping a page. No. Well, I don't know. I guess it's going to wrap it up for this evening. I'll go through these and I'll check them out. I'll post on Facebook what my findings are. But I'm going to get out this master set now and take a look and figure out what I'm doing and make sure I do or don't. If you want to send photos in an email, I'd be glad to see photos in an email of what you've got. I don't remember doing it. If I did, that would make a difference. But I remember looking through 55S rolls before, but I don't remember taking any photos. And I don't remember exactly what dies I found in there. But anyway, I appreciate it, folks. Thank you guys for stopping by. And thank you for watching. Remember, we do have 2 reveals tomorrow. We also have the 1st of January sale where everything starts at $1, and I'm getting more stuff than you would ever know together. That'll start at $1 a coin. $1 a coin or $1 a roll. I'll have some rolls for $1 too. So make sure you stop by on the 1st of January at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's going to be the dollar sale. And we will have roll reveals. Today is the 27th. We've got them on the 28th, 29th, and 30th. So we've got them Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Now we will not have anything on the 31st. And then we'll have the big sale on the 1st. So I welcome you guys to stop by. I welcome you guys to join us. And aside from that, I bid you farewell. Good night.